Hello everyone. Today is 27th of May. Now it's 8 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is first part of today's update, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second part will be published on my Patreon page, and if you are interested in more news from Russia and commentary, please consider to subscribe to my Patreon. Link is under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. That will be great support of this channel and my work, of course. And our community on Patreon will welcome you with the open arms. That being said, let's talk about news now. And first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. Of course, main attention of the public and the media is still towards Kharkiv region, northern parts of Kharkiv region, where Russian forces conducting these local scale offensive operations to create a buffer zone. Operation is conducted in two directions. Western flank is concentrated on the Liptsi direction, Liptsi settlement, which is for now still controlled by Kiev regime forces. And the eastern flank of Russian local scale offensive is concentrated on Volchansk. During the previous 12 to 24 hours, there was no crucial changes on the line of contact in this area. Some sources are reporting that entire northern part of this city that is divided by Volchi River almost in half is under full Russian control. According to some other sources, Kiev regime still has its foothold in the northern part of this city. In any case, northern part of this town largely under Russian control, and I guess this week we will see Russian operations in the southern part of Volchansk. Also, simultaneously, by the way, Kiev regime managed to redeploy in this direction so much troops from strategic reserves that Kiev regime had, or from other sectors of the front line, that some channels are reporting now that Kiev regime is even conducting this local scale counteroffensive operations at this point without achieving any success, but counteroffensive operations themselves are clearly demonstrating that number of manpower Kiev regime managed to concentrate in this direction is quite significant. Overall, Russia initiative is in Russian hands, and I guess main question right now when it comes to creation of these buffer zones is that will Russia maintain its operations in the Kharkiv region only, or we will see some operations in the Sumy direction. Also, because yesterday, for example, during the live stream, I shared video of artillery preparations in the borderline areas of the Sumy region, and many sources predicted that after these artillery preparations, most likely Russian forces will conduct these local scale offensive operations to create a buffer zone, to start creation of the buffer zone in Sumy region. Also, in any case, by the way, current operation in the Kharkov, on the northern parts of Kharkov region, already achieve significant success, because first of all, several settlements were liberated and the creation of the buffer zone has begun. And secondly, Kiev regime was forced to deploy in this direction many units from other sectors of the front line, and therefore, of course, it's become a little more easier for Russian forces to conduct local scale offensive operations on other sectors of the front line. And right now, as I'm recording this update, at least five settlements Russian forces are in progress in at least 5 settlements that even today may become under full Russian control. And this is clearly a result of this immense stretch that Kiev regime forces are under, mainly as a result of this Kharkiv offensive or attempt to create a buffer zone. And by the way, several settlements already become under full Russian control. For example, in Kupiansk direction, settlement of Ivanovka on the northern side of Kislovka Katlirovka is under full Russian control. Russian Defense Ministry did not yet confirm this information, but many sources are reporting that Ivanovka under full Russian control, and most likely in upcoming days we will see Russian offensive operations towards Stipovo and Novoselovka settlement, and also on the southern part of Kislovka Katlirovka, Berestovoe settlement become under full Russian control. This is the Berestovoe here. So significant progress on the Kupiansk direction, and I guess this is just the beginning. In upcoming days we will see further progress of the Russian forces in this direction. And also, by the way, there was reports that in Berestovoe area about 70 Ukrainian military personnel lay down arms and surrender, which is quite significant. I guess best decision of those Ukrainian military personnel of their lives to lay down arms and surrender, and therefore save their lives. They will have some story to tell to their kids and grandkids. Also, by the way, Russian forces are conducting local-scale offensive operations towards Selimachovka settlement, and I guess it's only a matter of days, and Selimachovka will become next hotspot on the line of contact. Also, by the way, when it comes to Seversk direction, Russian forces further improving their positions in Belogorovka area, and town itself, the settlement itself, is under Russian control now. Russian Defense Ministry, of course, reported several days ago on liberation of the Belogorovka, and videos are circulating on internet about further Russian progress in surrounding areas in the vicinity of Belogorovka. Chasiv Yar direction, no reports about some crucial changes in Chasiv Yar direction. Main hotspot right now is, of course, where is the Chasiv Yar, man? It must be somewhere here. So yes, this is Chasiv Yar, by the way, and the main operations are taking place in Canal district at this point. Partially Canal district already controlled by Russian forces, but more than 50% of territory is under Ukrainian control. Not for long, I guess, but still at this point battles continue for Canal district, and despite the reports from number of sources during the previous week about Russian progress towards Novaya district of the Chasiv Yar, which is located on the western part of Seversky Donetsk Donbass channel, I see no video confirmation of this progress, photo confirmation. So therefore, maybe it was a yearly call. Maybe some reckoning force operation was conducted by Russian forces, and this reckoning force operation was mistaken by some channels as a beginning of the Russian assault on the main part of the Chasiv Yar itself. At this point, as I said, main battles are taking place for control over Canal district. When it comes to Avdiivka direction, we also have some updates. So Umanskaya settlement, by the way, Umanskaya settlement, and also Arkhangelskaya, which is here under full Russian control now. Russian Defense Ministry confirmed this information, and also Russian forces have significant progress in Nitailova area. Overall, one may say that in Avdiivka direction, some sort of operational pause has been established after significant progress of the Russian units. Basically, after liberation of Avdiivka, Russian forces did not stop. They were constantly conducting these offensive operations, and over a dozen of settlements have been liberated since then. And I guess it does make sense to slow down these offensive operations a little bit and now on central parts of Avdiivka sector, and focused more on the flanks, to secure flanks. And therefore, as I reported in previous updates, I expect Russian forces to become more active on the northern flank of Avdiivka sector, in the direction of settlements like New York, Nilepovka, Artemova, Shumy, Druzhba, Kirova. All these settlements, by the way, probably will become hotspots on line of contact in upcoming days and weeks. And same can be said about southern flank of Avdiivka sector, although Russian forces are quite active in this direction anyway already. And I guess it's only a matter of maybe a week, and Nivelskaya settlement in between Krasnogorovka and Nitailova, Pervomayskaya will become under full Russian control. When it comes to Krasnogorovka itself, several sources yesterday start reporting that a number of Kiev regime units start withdrawing from Krasnogorovka. I did not see any photo or video confirmation of that, but I did see video of Russian offensive operations in Krasnogorovka direction. And of course, it's difficult to say how long it will take for Russian side to establish full control over the Krasnogorovka, main stronghold of the Kiev regime in southern flank of Donetsk sector. But I definitely would not be surprised if before end of this week Krasnogorovka will become under full Russian control. When it comes to southern Donetsk sector, Russian forces further improving their positions in Paraskovievka area. Some sources even reporting that Paraskovievka is already under Russian control, and if so, I guess in next day or two, Russian Defense Ministry will confirm this information. And in that case, one may argue that now Konstantinovka is becoming the main hotspot on this sector on this part of the South Donetsk sector of the front line. Simultaneously, when it comes to South Donetsk sector, of course, Russian forces are conducting quite successful local-scale offensive operations in Vremyevsky salient area towards Urozhaina and Staromayorskaya. And well, I have to admit, my prediction that these two settlements will become under full Russian control before end of last week did not become true. Russian forces had significant progress in this direction, but settlements are widely, disputed between the sides. And well, I'm not gonna make predictions, but I will definitely not be surprised if before end of this week both these settlements, Urozhaina and Staromayorskaya, will become under full Russian control. And also, by the way, Russian forces are active in Zaporizhzhia direction also, and Russian forces conducting local-scale offensive operations on the northern side of Rabotina. On northern side of Rabotina settlement, heavy strikes, artillery strikes, drone strikes, missile strikes are taking place on points of concentration of Kiev regime forces in Malay, Takmachka area, Novodanilovka, in Orekhov direction in general. And also, by the way, Russian forces become active, first time in quite a long time, in the western part of Zaporizhzhia sector, inner areas in between Kamenskaya and Pitikhatki, Zhiribyanki Pitikhatki settlements, and several Kiev regime strongholds, or the several Ukrainian strongholds, Russian forces managed to establish control, and some significant number of Kiev regime military personnel also made the right decision in this direction and laid down arms and surrender. In upcoming days, maybe we will see further activization of Russian forces towards Kamenskaya, Lapkova, Stepova directions. This sector, not the sector is Zaporizhzhia front line, but in this area, basically, I expect significant activization to continue. And when it comes to Kherson direction, no changes here. Artillery duels, drone wars, and constant fight between the sides for control over the islands on the Dnieper River and the delta of the Dnieper River. This is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. I remind you, dear friends, that military channels are providing much greater volume of detailed information about these local scale battles on the line of contact. And if by chance you are not familiar with the military channel, if you are new to independent media, alternative media, under this video in description box I have a recommendation list of the channels that I follow, and you can find there at least several links to military channels. That's been said, let's continue with some other reportings. And well, RIA Novosti, the report about news that I just spoke about. Berestovoe is liberated by Russian forces. Russian Defense Ministry confirmed this on southern side of Kislevka, Katlirovka. Also, by the way, in Russia's State Duma, statement was made that during the liberation of Berestovoe, some 70 military personnel of the Kiev regime forces laid down arms and surrender, as I said. RBK news agency also reporting that, well, according to article in New York Times, Kiev regime forces basically refuse to receive, or maybe not to receive, but to actively use number of different types of precise guided weapons that US and some other countries are providing, some other NATO countries are providing to Zelensky's regime. And among those weapons, by the way, you might be surprised, but among those weapons is Excalibur, US-made precise guide artillery shell. And according to article in New York Times, Excaliburs, for example, are extremely ineffective due to Russian radio-electronic warfare systems because of the jammings. Basically, Russian side is jamming significant number of Western weapons, which is good for Russian side. Unfortunately, not all Western weapons can be jammed, or maybe can, but not always successfully. And therefore, there are instances when Kiev regime targeting civilians in Donbass with these Western-made weapon systems, including guided ones. RT is reporting that Medvedev, former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council, commented on recent statements of Sikorsky, foreign minister of Poland, who said that Washington threatened Moscow with the strikes if Russian forces will use deploy tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. I don't know, is Radislav Sikorsky shared with media his fantasies, or what happened there, because I don't think US leadership is that stupid that they would not know that they cannot threaten Russia. They just cannot. And any strikes on Russia by any country, especially nuclear one, will mean nuclear escalation. And that's basically exactly what Medvedev said there by commenting on this statement of Sikorsky. Let's go through this news because, well, the topic of this extreme level of escalation between NATO and Russia, unfortunately, is very relevant at this point, especially after Western ruling class start pushing this narrative that Western long-range weapon systems should be used to target deep inside the Russian territory, which of course will force Moscow to take retaliatory steps and maybe even use some extreme force. So let's go through this news. Any US attack on Russian targets in Ukraine would automatically trigger a world war. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has warned. The official, who currently serves as deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, made the remarks after Polish Foreign Minister Radzislaw Sikorski claimed that Washington had threatened to conduct strikes should Russia use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, strikes against Russia. In a post on X, formerly Twitter, on Sunday, Medvedev suggested that Sikorsky apparently has decided to scare his masters in Washington, I guess, he noted that Washington, unlike Warsaw, has so far refrained from making any such threats publicly because they are more cautious than the Polish leadership. Americans hitting our targets means starting a world war, and the foreign minister, even that type of foreign minister as Sikorsky is, should understand that. The former Russian president also claimed, cited remarks made by Polish President Andrzej Duda last month when he said his country would be willing to host US nuclear weapons if offered such an opportunity under NATO's sharing mechanism. Medvedev warned that in case of a nuclear confrontation, Warsaw won't be left out and will surely get its share of radioactive ash, asking if this is the outcome that Polish leadership really wants. So once again, strong words from Medvedev, strong warnings, one may say, from Moscow towards Western ruling class in general. But as we all know, I guess majority of us will agree that unfortunately Western ruling class is unable to listen to warnings, unable to listen to other opinions at all. And therefore, I don't think Western ruling class will de-escalate, at least until they will be forced to do so. So, as I said, man, we are entering extremely dangerous times because of this constant escalation from the West. And once these long-range Western weapon systems, like Storm Shadow cruise missiles or Scalp PG cruise missiles or ATACMS missiles, will start flying towards Russian cities, I mean deep inside Russian territory, towards maybe even Moscow. In some circumstances, Storm Shadows or Scalp PG cruise missiles, according to some military experts, can be modified and they can reach targets up to 500 kilometers, if not more. And that will make Moscow even in reach of those missiles. Certainly, other cities that are closer to Ukraine in central and southern Russia. And once at this point, it's not question if, but question when those missiles, NATO missiles, will start flying towards Russian cities deep inside the country. Once this will happen, I mean, gloves are off, and Moscow may have no any other option but to use some extreme force and basically, by smashing face of those so-called elites of the West, force them to rethink their policies towards Russia, force them to de-escalate. Let's continue. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that although, by the way, I don't know, even if Russian side will smash faces of those so-called elites in the West, I'm not quite sure that they intellectually are mature enough, those so-called elites in the West, to realize what has happened. I mean, they are just too stupid, man. They are morons, imbeciles, man. That's just take a look at this so-called leadership in the West, man, in the collective West. In majority of countries, some uneducated bastards are in charge, formally in charge. I mean, real decision makers are in shadow and they're just pulling the strings. So we all understand that, but still, I mean, formally at least, these people are in charge, like Sunak, this stupid bitch, man, like Scholz, or Macron, or rest of them. I'm not even mentioning leadership of Poland or Baltic states, man, those chihuahuas, man. I mean, come on. No. I mean, you can take their heads off and they will still not realize what the hell has happened, man. They're just too stupid. RBK news agency is... First of all, this news, by the way, I just mentioned Baltic states, and well, by the way, Der Spiegel media outlet is reporting that Baltic states and the Poland, leadership of Baltic states and Poland are warning Germany that they will send their militaries into Ukraine if Russian progress on the battlefield continues. Okay, okay, I mean, what can what can I say, man? As I said, those chihuahuas, man, that just know how to bark, and that's it. This Kaya Kallas, Estonian, extremely Russophobe individual. I mean, constantly making some crazy statements. Leadership of Lithuania and Latvia also, by the way. I mean, barking all day, every day, man. I mean, everyone is fed up with these individuals. And Polish leadership know any better, by the way. Know any better. They also, on day in, day out basis, making some crazy statements. Okay, if they want to end up in direct confrontation with Russia, let them send their troops. Let's see how long they will survive on the line of contact. And why they are warning Germany, by the way? What should Germany do about it? I just don't get it, man. I don't know, man. Western world is becoming more and more strange when it is becoming difficult to understand what those people that are in charge of those countries really want, or in which direction they are pushing their own countries. I mean, towards total destruction. Why? And when societies in the West gonna wake up and realize that, I mean, that these people are crazy that are at least formally in charge of their countries, you know. Anyways, by the way, you know my take on Ukraine itself. Once this conflict will end, Ukraine will be divided between its neighbors. Russia will control majority of the territory, and western parts of Ukraine most likely will be controlled by NATO. It is highly likely that that's what is going to happen in my reading of the big picture. And well, maybe all these statements are just a preparation of the ground for deployment of the NATO troops into western Ukraine. That may be the case, because I mean, are they that stupid, this leadership of Baltic states and Poland, that they're gonna send their troops to fight Russia on line of contact? I don't think so. They just love to bark, man. That's all. They are posing all the time and, you know, trying to demonstrate how tough they are, but come on, man. They are called chihuahuas for a reason, isn't it? Chihuahuas of this geopolitical on geopolitical map. RBK news agency is reporting that Scholz, by the way, German Chancellor, once again is openly refusing to agree on the deliveries of the long-range Taurus missiles to Kiev. Once again, this topic is not up to Berlin, not up to current leadership of Germany, but this topic will be decided by Washington, 100%. And if Scholz is allowed to make such a statement, that means that Washington not yet has final decision on these Taurus long-range missiles, because if White House will, you know, order Scholz to send those missiles into Ukraine, and the military personnel, German military personnel, to operate then with those missiles, I don't think Scholz will refuse. I mean, he is just an asset of CIA, isn't it? I mean, he cannot refuse to obey orders of his bosses. But seems like White House has no final decision yet on those Taurus missiles, and that's why Scholz is repeating himself, basically, that he is not delivering no Taurus missiles to Ukraine. RT is also reporting that another European leader warns world heading for disaster. There is a little time left to conclude the Ukraine conflict, which risks escalating out of control and inciting global war. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić has warned, and this conflict can be, you know, finished in a couple of weeks' time. If Western ruling class wants to de-escalate, they can do it. After all, just like a few weeks ago, head of NATO Stoltenberg, himself, if I remember correctly, stated that if NATO will stop providing weapons to Kyiv regime, this conflict will end in a couple of weeks. So, what is the deal then? Why collective West will not stop aiding this Nazi and the terrorist regime in Kyiv? Why collective West is continuing this proxy war against Russia? That's a question, and well, as I said, man, until Russia will smash faces of those criminals, the so-called elites of the West and the ruling class of the West in general, they're not gonna stop. They're not gonna stop. They're gonna escalate, and I'm afraid we are very close to the point when Moscow will say, you know what, enough is enough. We are sick and tired of you, and then Russia will smash them. That's what is going to happen, by the way. And Vucic is, yes, he has a point, clearly. I mean, we are on the edge of world war. Because, as I said, if those long-range missiles, by the way, and the West clearly preparing ground for launches of those missiles towards, deep inside Russian territory. Once those missiles are launched and flying around Rostov city or Voronezh or Tula or Bryansk or, Belgorod or maybe even towards Moscow region or Moscow itself, then gloves are off. Then Moscow will have no other option but to use whatever force is necessary to bring this so-called Western elite to their senses, and that means the use of extreme force, maybe even tactical nuclear weapons. I don't know. I just don't know. But I was warning. I was saying for so long now, isn't it, that with this constant escalation against Russia, Western ruling elites may basically leave no other option for Moscow at some point but to use extreme force, and I guess Moscow is at that point right now. And 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, I don't know when Western ruling class will authorize launches of those long-range missiles towards deep inside Russian territory. But once this will happen, then that's it. Russia will definitely retaliate with their heavy hand, and then, well, if Washington, London, Paris, nuclear countries of the NATO will decide to go to war with Russia, okay, I mean, we will all die. Only difference is who will go to hell and who will go to heaven. That's it, really. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying that we are discussing this topic of world war and nuclear exchange, but that's how difficult, how dangerous situation is. And a number of high-ranking officials, by the way, in this world already are warning directly that, calm down, de-escalate, otherwise you may not even notice how you push this war towards its destruction, towards world war. Vucic is saying that. Recently, President of Belarus said that the world has never been this close to nuclear disaster. Medvedev is giving warnings. Just everybody, by the way, who understands the situation are giving these warnings, but yet again, I'm afraid Western ruling class unable to decode these warnings. They just cannot. They will escalate until they are forced to remember about reverse gear. Anyways, let's continue. RBK news agency is reporting that Sweden commented also on this topic of strikes deep inside Russian territory by Western weapon systems, and well, at this point at least, head of defense minister of Sweden opposes strikes on Russian territory, Paul Johnson, that's the name of this person. So so Italy, by the way, is against this idea that Western weapon systems to be used to strike deep inside Russian territory. Sweden is also against this idea because probably they're realizing that Moscow will have no other option but to retaliate with heavy hand, with some extreme force. And maybe they don't want to get caught in middle of this extreme level of escalation. There is a rationale there, isn't it? RT is reporting that Israel tries to justify yesterday's deadly strike on Rafah. The IDF claims to have struck a legitimate target, aimed reports of at least 35 civilian deaths. Yesterday, this so-called safe zone was targeted by IDF. Israeli side is claiming that at least 2 high-ranking officials of Hamas were neutralized during this strike, but some horrifying images are coming from that area. Many of you probably see dozens of civilians have been killed during this strike, and there are dozens more injured. Unfortunately, this horror and tragedy continues in Gaza, and seems like it's not stopping. This tragedy is not stopping anytime soon. Interfax is reporting that Hamas refused to return to negotiations with Israel because Hamas leadership thinks Israel is not serious about negotiations, and well, I guess Netanyahu and his government also don't really want any negotiations. So if sides are not talking, if sides are not really if sides don't really want to de-escalate, then how anybody should expect de-escalation? So things will go even worse, I guess. It's already tragedy, huge humanitarian tragedy and disaster there, but unfortunately things may get even worse. RIA Novosti's report that Hungary revealed the volume of pipeline gas that it received from Russia in 2023. According to statistics, last year Hungary received some 5.6 billion cubic meters of the Russian gas, which is about 65% of overall consumption of the gas by Hungary. In 2024, this year, Hungary already received 2.5 billion cubic meters of the gas. Good for Hungary, by the way, because if they will refuse to buy Russian gas like some other EU member states did, they will have no option but to buy more expensive gas from Norway, for example, or LNG, and which is also significantly more expensive, and most likely that LNG would be Russian also. Like France, by the way, is number one, at least like months ago, it was number one among EU member states in purchases of Russian LNG. Spain is buying huge volumes of Russian LNG. Denmark, Netherlands, I guess Germany also receiving Russian LNG, because I guess French and Spanish companies buying that LNG, Russian LNG, and then reselling it to other EU member states. So, well, it's good for Hungary, by the way, because especially in these times when inflation is high just about everywhere in this world, and by receiving relatively cheap compared to LNG or Norwegian gas, by receiving relatively cheap Russian energy source, of course, they are benefiting significantly and keeping inflation as low as possible. Also, by the way, Interfax is reporting that Blinken once again warned, the head of US State Department once again warned Georgia that next months will be crucial in terms of Georgia's relationships with the North Atlantic Alliance or Euro-Atlantic Alliance, Georgians' opportunity to join EU, and of course he is calling Russian government to refuse to adopt this law about foreign agents. At least for now, Georgian government is not bowing down, by the way. Georgian government is standing strong, and that definitely means that US will further intensify attempts to destabilize Georgia by using its assets, huge number of assets that Washington, US secret services directly or indirectly control in Georgia. And well, one may hope that not just government of Georgia, but also security services are ready for all possible provocations that they will face, because there will be more and more provocations. US, by the way, is US leadership and I mean CIA. It's a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they overthrow so many governments worldwide. I don't think you know, I mean, it is what it is, man. Let's hope Georgia is ready for what to come, because US is not stopping, by the way. US leadership, and if they have made the final decision to destabilize Georgia, conduct regime change, and then use Georgia against Russia by sacrificing it, then I'm afraid they will not stop until they will achieve their goal, and that's why it is important for Georgian government, security services to stand strong and protect citizens of Georgia from all possible provocations. RIA Novosti is reporting that well, the Russian president in a 2-day visit to Uzbekistan, former Soviet Republic. And of course, during this visit, leaders of two countries will negotiate on a number of topics, will exchange opinions on a number of topics, and the significant agreements most likely will be signed. And it is expected that two sides will reach agreement on construction of nuclear power station in Uzbekistan. Rosatom, being one of the leading corporations in the world when it comes to civilian nuclear energy, is ready to build a nuclear power station in Uzbekistan. And well, let's see how negotiations go down. Of course, it's a big deal. Uzbekistan did not have any nuclear power stations, so it's going to be a huge jump, technologically speaking, for Uzbekistan, because Russia will not just build nuclear power station, but Russia will also train specialists in Uzbekistan, will build training centers. So it's a huge deal. And well, let's see how will things develop. And I will end this update on this information that, according to RBK News Agency, US once again threatens everybody that they don't like. In this particular case, Janet Yellen, head of US Finance Ministry, that's how we say it. So Janet Yellen is threatening banks in Europe, banks and other institutions, commercial institutions that are dealing with Russia, that are making business with Russia directly or indirectly. And well, it is sad, by the way, it is sad to see this level of degradation of the political class of the Washington, because when you last time see true diplomacy from the US? When US officials are not threatening nobody. I mean, I really can't remember. That's the attitude that US leadership has, man. They are constantly threatening with sanctions, with this and with that. And I mean, this is not the way that the political class of the nuclear superpower operate. I mean, this is clearly indication that US is in deep trouble, deep decline in every possible ways, and you can see it even on political class, how they talk, what they represent. It's how are you gonna comment this, man? It's crazy. So yes, Europeans, I mean, after threatening Russia, after threatening China, India, other big member states, now Janet Yellen and US political class is threatening, formally at least, their partners in Europe. Okay, continue this way, man. Unbelievable. And I will end this update. Still quite long update, by the way. I will end this update on this news. Hopefully you will find it informative and interesting, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary. Just about anything, any topic will do. This is the only way we can deal with the algorithm. More likes and comments, and maybe we will manage to influence algorithm enough that videos will be recommended to the people that have some interest to receive news, including from Russia. And for very same reason, to reach wider audience, if you can please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on any of the platforms that you are actively using. And yes, what else? I guess this is it. If you like this channel, if you like my work in general on YouTube, on Rumble, on Telegram, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, on which, by the way, I have some extra content on regular basis. And right now, after I will finish recording this first part of today's update, I will start recording second part for Patreon. And before we will finish watching or listening in this part, I'm quite sure second part already will be published on Patreon. So if you want to, you can go to Patreon straight away and continue receiving news from Russia. All the links, by the way, under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Have a nice day, and take care. Bye for now.